Okay, so here's some help with some of the assignments from the exercises in 6.3 where we learned for each loops, which are cool if you want to go through an entire list. So the first two, that's just switching from a for to a for each or a for each to a for. And you just got to get used to when to use brackets and how to set up the new for each loop and the fact you have to match the type when you do your for each loop. So now we come to this problem where we're going to use the student class to print out each student using a for each loop. So when we go to the student class, you see some instance variables, a constructor, and some getters. You got get first name, get last name, get grade level, and the toString method we're going to be not using, I think. Yeah. That would be a nice thing to do, but we're going to have to print in the for each loop. So yeah, so we're going to have to print their name and their grade level, their first name, last name, grade level. We'll have to use the appropriate getters, so make sure you notice the names for these. And yeah, it shouldn't be that bad. When we go over to class roster, it has all these new objects created: Julian, Larissa, Amanda, Mika, and Jay. Okay, and then it makes an array out of these students that were created. If you didn't have these up here, you wouldn't be able to use them. Not with this, right? Because it tells you it's an array of students. All right, so let me shrink that down. So now we're going to do a for each loop for printing. So for, and then here's where it gets weird. You have to do student, and this would be, you can use whatever you want. Kid in classroom. So for each kid in your classroom, we're going to do something. Okay, now what's different about these is you had to say to the student. We don't say int I equals 0 like we always did for regular for loops. Now each item's kid, so it's not position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3. It's actually going to pick the word, or it's going to pick the item Julian, which has all these variables. This is what's kind of cool about these, is you're grabbing a student item. Now you have to use getters and setters. So for each one, we're gonna have to make this kind of output happen. So I'm going to system out print line, and we're going to go. The first thing we want to do is grab the first name. So we're going to say kid dot get first name. Let me make sure that's the actual, get first name, and oops, I shrunk it down. Okay, and I don't have to enter anything in. It's just going to return the first name. So we have kid dot get first name plus, I'm guessing we need a blank every time. And then kid dot get last name. Oh, I think I forgot that on the other one. Yeah. Okay, and then you'll have to do the the rest of this with we're going to say is in space, and then grade. Oh. Okay. Is in this grade, and we put an extra space at the end just for good looks, and then kid. So we're accessing each item. I think this is how it's spelled. Okay. Yeah, something like that, and you can try it out, see if it works. But it's something like that. I think I misspelled the grade level, and then you might have to. You're going to have to go back and modify those things, but that should get you enough. It's really the thing I wanted to point out was when you do a for each loop, you have to match the type of the items that are in your list. and then whatever name you use here, you don't access it by the position, it just walks through. It's the difference between a walker and a stepper. All right, try that out. All right, so in this one, we're gonna go into here and make an average. So if you look in this class, couple things to note. It has a private variable called an integer array called values, and then in the constructor, whatever you put inside here, all it does is it assigns your array to values to be used here. So basically, it's just a little setting here to let you do this in a separate class outside of this. Okay, so we're going to go in here and make sure you notice in the end we're going to return, right, average, which should be a double. Okay, so make sure you don't forget that return thing on the AP test. They always make sure you know that. So we're going to start our average off, right? We have to declare it. It's got to be a double because I'm going to return it in the end. So we make this thing called average, set it to 0 to begin with, and then we're going to actually find the average. Now, if you think about it, it helps to look at these sometimes. You're going to add up each one of these items, and then you are going to divide by the total number of items. Okay, so that's how you find an average, right? So to add them up, I should probably do a sum thing here too, because I can do int because it's an integer array of values. So I know it's integers. So I want to make a sum thing first, and then I can do my for loop, my for each loop, right? Yeah, it says to do a for each loop. So you're going to say for int. So we have to tell what type of variable it is. Num in some, you use a colon, and I want to use values only because you're matching this guy, which is this guy, but you're using this array. It wouldn't actually know what you meant if you said the values. Those are kind of a local variable there. So for every item, for every number in your list of values, I'm just going to take a sum and add the current number you're on. And then, so it adds them up, adds them up, adds them up. And then I'm still in here, so I can use sum outside of it. And then we're going to say average equals, I want my sum divided by my total. So you could put a counter in here and just like say count equals 0, and then every time through add 1 to it with count plus plus. But there's an easier way. First of all, I want to cast my sum as a double. And then I can divide by my values dot length. You could have done the whole, I have put a counter on it, add it, and divide by count. One, you got to make sure you use a double there. We've learned that a few times. But this is how many items there are. So, you know, might as well use it, right? I think that should work. And then you got to go in here and actually use the constructor to make the array average item, and then you can call the get average method. So I'll leave that up to you to finish up, but that should help get you going. Avoid a few mistakes for there.